So glad y'all could join us today. And as you are coming in, if you just kind of say hi to everyone in the chat box, tell us your name and what role you play in education and where you're viewing from. We would love to get to meet you all. And I'm going to wait just about one more minute before we get started, just to make sure we have everyone coming in. Good. Putnam City, Tennessee, boy, good. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce my moderator. I have Lauren Jinks Jones, who's with us, and she works in our Curriculum and Instruction Department at the Oklahoma State Department of Education as a math specialist for Project Excel. If any of you are interested in Project Excel, are they still accepting applications, Lauren?
Through the first of the next month.
And Project Excel does professional development for ELA, math, and science. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, well, we will be cognizant of your time, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get us all started. I'm glad you could join us here today. And today is the first of 7 Tech Tool Tuesdays. And today we are becoming more familiar with Pear Deck. And there we go. Okay, my name is Karen Leonard. I'm the Director of Education Technology and Computer Science at the Oklahoma State Department of Education. I love to hear from you. If you've got questions, concerns, need help, I'll make sure that at the end of this session, I will be sharing an email that will contain a link to this presentation, obviously my email, and some other information that will be useful to you. This session will be recorded and it will be posted on the Education Technology Professional Development webpage for the Oklahoma State Department of Education. Just a little bit about me. I've just started the start of my 2nd year at the State Department, and prior to that I was an active classroom teacher in Oklahoma, Ohio, and Georgia. I've taught self-contained elementary, gifted K-8, in ELA, grades 4 through 8, social studies, grade 6, technology K-8, and computer science K-5. I also held the role of an academic technology specialist, which really allowed me to do some of the things that I really love and hopefully build teachers' interest and comfort in educational technology tools. As with any online session, we've discovered it's really important to make sure that you set some session norms. I just have 2 for today. The first one is please remain muted throughout this presentation. That decreases distractions from things that might go on in your house. There will be a time at the end when you will be able to unmute yourself and ask any questions or share any tips that you have. And the other norm is please be present and participate. I know we've sat through a lot of these presentations ourselves, and it does add more of an interactive element when you're able to ask questions or share your thoughts in the chat box. And Lauren's going to be moderating that. And any questions that we do not answer within this presentation, we'll make sure that we answer at the end. So during this session, I have 3 goals. First, we're going to learn how to create a Pear Deck. We're going to explore some of the Pear Deck resources, and then we're going to also allow you the opportunity to experience Pear Deck as a learner. And some of you are like, what in the world is Pear Deck in the first place? Why in the world would I ever want to use it? Here's just a quick video that will give you some idea of what Pear Deck can do for you with your students. Oh, wait, wrong button. There we go. Well, hopefully that gave you a little bit of an idea of what Pear Deck is. Basically, Pear Deck is just a tool that works in conjunction with Google Slides as an add-on. And when those two are put together, it allows greater interactivity for your students. Pear Deck can be used on any device, a laptop, a tablet, an iPad, even a phone, and it can be used by students of all ages, kindergarten through 12th grade or pre-K through 12. Some of what I'm sharing with you is focused more on an elementary level, only because that's something that I'm more comfortable teaching. But I do know that there's even a business version of Pear Deck, so that you know that it's not just an elementary based tool. Pear Deck allows every student to have a voice, and we definitely want to make sure that our students are able to communicate and be heard. Pear Deck gives them that option, and it allows them not just to consume information, but to use it. And a tool such as Pear Deck is very instrumental in doing some of the distance learning experiences that we've gone through, because you're not there to be able to talk to each student individually at times, and it does allow you to hear who they are and what they're doing. Making lessons interactive with Pear Deck is just really a three-step process. You open the Pear Deck add-on, you add interactive slide templates or add your own questions, and then you just click a lesson and begin. So we're going to examine that just a little more closely. And like I said, you will receive a copy of this slide deck so that you can go through slide by slide and follow these steps. So part one, we're going to create a Pear Deck. And like I said, in order to create a Pear Deck, you would just open your Google Slide app and look for the tab across the top that says add-ons. If you look to where I have the arrow, you're going to go down to Get Add-ons. And then a new window pops up. It's the G Suite Marketplace. You shouldn't even need to type anything in the search box. Pear Deck should be right there and visible. If you click on that icon, a new window will open and you'll just click Install. As it's installing within your Google Slide tool, it will ask for permission to work with your Google account, and once you've given it permission, you'll just be able to move on. There are two ways to begin creating a Pear Deck presentation. First of all, you can start creating it just as a new Google Slide deck and then add interactive elements as you go. Or you can take an existing Google Slide deck and Pear Deckify it. That helps if you've had plenty of slide decks or presentations in the past and you don't always want to start from scratch. So I'm going to take a fake old Google Slide deck that I have and show you how I can Pear Deckify it. And I would call this slide deck the lemonade stand, and I would probably think that this activity is more geared toward maybe first grade learners. So I'm going to show you that once I'm in a slide deck, I can go to add-ons and open my Pear Deck add-on, and you see a panel that has appeared on the right-hand side. And let's see, I think that since this is a first grade class, I'm going to go ahead and start using something from their template library. The template library is great. We'll examine this in closer detail soon, but I'm going to go down first of all and select one from social emotional learning. And I'm going to look for the slide. What do you think about topic slide? It's spinning as it's working, and it's going to pop it into the left-hand side of my slide deck where I can see it. And I don't want it to have this question. I'm able to go in and personalize. What do you think? Oops, it helps if I spell correctly. This lesson will be about. And now I have an interactive slide. And when students get to this slide, they will be asked to type in a written response. Pretty easy. If you notice across the bottom of that slide, there's now a panel that has the little Pear Deck icon. And you want to make sure that you do not delete that, because if you delete that panel, that will take away the interactivity of your slide. And on the left-hand side, if that slide didn't go in exactly where I wanted it to, I can move the order around just like, oops, any other slide could. There we go. I want that down there. And okay. So I'm going to go on to my next slide. And back on the Pear Deck panel, I'm going back to my home panel. This is a new feature within Pear Deck, and I think that this is pretty exciting. I'm going to add audio to my slide. Now, I could record anything I wanted to. Maybe I wanted to record instructions for students. Maybe I wanted to just say hi. It could be the introduction to a lesson. I'm going to press record. And the first time I try to do any recording, Pear Deck is going to ask me if I will allow it to use my microphone. I'm going to click allow, and now I'll never have to worry about that again. And honestly, it's already started recording my audio. I can press pause, and it will allow me to pause and restart recording. I can save it and listen to it. And now I'll never have to worry about it. And I can say, ooh, I really don't like that one. I could delete the file, but in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and add that short clip into my presentation. Now, the longer the recording, the longer it will take to process that clip and place it within your slide. But now you will see up in the top right-hand corner that audio is included, and I'm able to move that wherever I want to on the slide. Just like the panel across the bottom of my slide, I want to make sure that I do not delete this link. Students will not see that. It's only for teacher view. If I were to move that, then I would delete my audio and need to start all over again. So I have, let's say I wanted to record a short story for them. For best practices, Pear Deck recommends that keeping your slide recording short will help students concentrate more easily on both the audio instructions and on your prompt within the slide. While recordings can be longer than that, they suggest recordings of no more than 2 to 3 minutes in length. You're always able to add recordings to each slide in your presentation so that you can stagger and customize the instructions as you go. So when students come in, they will see the little icon with the headphones, and they will know that they're able to click and listen to that information. The great thing is students can go back and listen to that information as many times as they need to. Unfortunately, at this time, it does not allow students to record audio to respond to your question. That's probably one of those things. I know Google is a company that if you send off suggestions to them, they're pretty good about taking their suggestions. So maybe if you're interested in having students record audio as a response, that might be a suggestion that you send to Pear Deck. So my students have listened to my story, and now I'm going to use one of these Ask a Student a Question circle icons, and I am going to select a multiple choice question. So far on this slide, I've added audio, and now I'm going to insert a multiple choice question. And my question is going to be, which type of lemonade do you like best? And choice A will be yellow lemonade, once again. Choice B will be pink lemonade. And choice C will be, I don't like lemonade. And I can update my slide. And it's thinking. And so now it's added that option in across the bottom. And maybe I insert my question here, or maybe that's what I've used my audio for. Students will then have a panel on their side, which you'll experience later on, and they'll be able to select A, B, or C and move on. So now my next slide, I had some, oh, you know what? I want to do an end of the story slide. I'm going to go back to my story template. And for this one, I am going to go down to the Littles K2 slide. And I know down here, there is another text slide that I'm going to pop in. And it's thinking and thinking. There we go. And again, how do I think the child in the story feels? I'm going to say, how do you think the boy felt at the end of the story? And then I can pull that up there. And actually, I want that to go right after the lemonade stand slide. So I pulled that up there and able to reorganize. And again, this is where students are allowed to put their input in and tell you what they thought about this boy's feelings. Now I'm going to add a math concept in here. And for this one, I'm showing them that a picture of a quarter costs 25 cents. I'm going to go back to the home panel of Pear Deck and go into the template library. And this time I'm going down to math. I know that the last template there says solve the math problem. And that's going to insert a new template. And here I'm going to say, if 1 cup of lemonade costs 25 cents, how many cups can I buy with $1? So now students are able to enter a numeric response. And then I'm thinking, oh, they've had a very long time. We know that sitting in front of a computer can be exhausting. I am going to go back and add one additional slide. I know under social emotional learning, I'm going to add, this slide says a moment of silence, but I have another idea. As soon as it goes in there, I am going to say a music break. I can delete the rest of those and just, maybe I'm going to tell them an audio response. I just want you to take a few minutes to relax and respond. I'm going to add audio to this slide. And this time, instead of me recording, I'm going to upload something that I've downloaded previously. I know yesterday or the day before, I found an MP3, and I'm going to put that in here. And I know that this is a short 2-minute song, and I'm going to add that right there into the slide so the students are able to take a break and just listen. And some of you I know use sites such as GoNoodle as brain breaks, and that's something that you could add into a slide like this to make sure that students are having that opportunity to take a break from their learning. And again, maybe I'm just going to drag that down there so it's easier for the students to see. I can even enlarge it if I wish. Okay, I'm going back into presentation mode so I can show you, oh, actually I wanted to show you some of the templates. Like I said, I've looked through the template library and they have all kinds of slides that you can just insert into your presentation. They have beginners, beginning of the lesson slide, bell ringers, what did you think about, what's your opinion? How was the homework assignment? They have during the session assessment tools, stretch break, drag your dot to think if you agree or disagree. End of the lesson reflection and exit tickets. Again, all of these are pre-created and you just drag them into something that you're creating or have already created. We also have some learning development templates, critical thinking, consider different viewpoints, I observe, I wonder. I've taken one from social emotional learning, but I kind of like what is filling your bucket today and what is draining your bucket today. Since you're not physically there to talk to communicate with each student, that might be a great way for you to assess how they're feeling and maybe figure out what you can do to bring them back up to the excitement of learning. And they also have subject area templates. Some example templates. There's graphing capabilities, drag and draw if you're trying to connect maybe Spanish color words to English color words. Again, I've already shown some of the littles, but there's math. For some of our High school and middle school teachers, there's even the ability to work with your Desmos calculator and Desmos site directly in here. Science, periodic tables, recording, graphing distance versus time, labeling. I mean, look at all of these. There's just tons to choose from. Social studies, fact and opinion, what kind of source is this? Primary, secondary, tertiary. World languages, some of these are pre-created. So think, if you happen to be a middle school or high school world language teacher, you would be able to use the audio feature to record you speaking the language and asking students questions and having them respond based upon your audio. And last but not least, we also have ELA. And again, there we go, compare King Lear and Richard II, but maybe if we're not reading that, I can go in and modify that as I see fit. So they have a lot of great resources already built into this tool. Now I'm going back into presentation mode and I'm going to tell you some of the other things that are really good about using this tool.
Karen, can I interrupt you for just a second for a few questions?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So we've had a couple of questions about the cost of using this. So are all the features free, and specifically is the audio free?
That is a great question. From what I was researching, yes, the audio is free. If you look here, the two icons, the draw and draggable, have stars beside those. Those are part of their cost packet. Everything that I'm showing you today is free. And most teachers I know, I believe it's about $150 per individual teacher to use, although they do sell school bundles. But I just want you to see that there are so many capabilities just using the free version that I think you're able to do that without paying for it.
Awesome. The next question is, do students have to have the Pear Deck app to be able to interact with the slides?
That is another great question. Back in the settings, when I ran through this presentation with my husband, it did ask him to sign into Google Slides or his Google account. I realized that it was just a settings issue, and no, students do not have to have anything. I'm going to show you that I can share this with students in Google Classroom or email them a link, and they do not need to log into anything or have any account type to join.
Great. The next question is, can you use this with something like Screencastify?
I don't think you'd need to use it with Screencastify, because this next method of delivery would probably be sufficient, and I don't think you would need to tie those two together.
Great. We have a couple more questions, but we'll wait for them at the end when we wrap everything up.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. Well, I'm going back into present mode, and the wonderful thing about this is you are able to use this in two different modes of delivery. What I'm going to do in a few minutes is show you the instructor-paced activity. That means that you're able to use that when you're with your students in real time, whether virtually or face-to-face, for synchronous lessons, but you're also able to do student-paced activities. That's great for asynchronous session times. Student-paced activities can be assigned, and you can even set a specific due date or date that students need to complete that activity. There is a teacher dashboard, and I'll show you when we get to the login site, how you can go in to set an end date and even close it so that no students are able to enter or interact with this at a time. There are two different ways that you can also share or have students join a Pear Deck. One is going to peardeck.com, and there will be a 5-letter random generated code that comes for each session. You will have the opportunity to experience that method in a few minutes. But you can also share a link, like I said, in Google Classroom or via email, because some of your younger students might not be very good at navigating and opening a web browser on their own and typing in a code. So you're just able to share it as a link, maybe in Google Classroom, and it opens right up, enters the join code automatically for them, and they are right there. And they can work through independently. Maybe this is a practice session for them or a homework assignment just to reinforce some of the skills that you've covered either face-to-face in a traditional classroom or through distance learning. So now we're going to explore some of the Pear Deck resources. There were already a great number of resources in the Pear Deck panel on the side once you open the add-on, but there are additional resources on the Pear Deck website. Again, all of this is free. You would go to the teacher login page and make sure that you log in with whatever Google account you use with your Google Slides. But today, what I really want to focus on is the resources found on this website. Before I click on the resources, I want you to notice the bottom of my screen. I have a gray bar across the bottom, and I've entered a website. You can do that with one of those circle add a question options within the panel. And that's a very easy way for you to share a website with students without having them need to navigate anywhere else. So within the Pear Deck website, under resources, I think this is really cute. They have an orchard where they have other activities and decks that you're able to select from. And here's a screenshot from that. If you're building a lesson, you don't have to start from scratch. All of the templates that are found in the panel are also available through this website, but there's also additional templates created, and you may want to go and check some of those out as well. There's also Newzilla daily decks that are added, and with distance learning opportunities, this might be a good tool, or even within the classroom. And if you're not familiar with Newzilla, the daily decks are great because they're ready to teach activities. They release 5 daily decks every Monday, and these are adaptive news articles. So you're teaching your students nonfiction reading skills. And again, they can range from high school reading level to littles reading level. And they offer interactive prompts that help you and your students explore current events. I think that's a great way to provide students exposure to not only nonfiction reading, but current events as well. And if you notice at the bottom, you're able to subscribe to the daily deck. So you would receive an email with that information every Monday. Another tool or a resource that we would find in the Pear Deck Orchard are their weekly wonders. And this is weekly content that's updated, and it's curated content from educational inspirational sources. It's supposed to spark curiosity and conversation with your students, and 3 are released each week. 1 for the elementary level, 1 for the middle school level, and 1 for the high school level. And each of these templates or packets contain either a video or an article paired with 2 or 3 discussion prompts. And remember, you could always take the discussion prompts shared within these and edit them or add your own as well. Okay, now you've seen a lot of the behind the scenes part of Pear Deck. I'm going to have you experience an interactive Pear Deck. So what I need you to do, and if you are uncomfortable navigating from my Zoom screen into a new web page, you're free to just sit here and watch as well. But I am going to have to exit out of my presentation. And now I've already gone to add-ons and opened my Pear Deck. Now I'm going to start a lesson. And for this, I'm going to select Instructor Paste. So now it's going to provide you, the students, join code information for this. So right now in that other browser window, I would like you to go to joinpd.com. And there is the 5-letter randomly generated code, ZANRC. And right now I can already tell that I have 4 students connected. So in the teacher view, it's great because I can watch As that number increases, and I'm able to make sure that if I've got 25 students in my class, all 25 are connected. This is also the screen where I can collect a link that I could share with my students in Google Classroom or through an email. And I'm going to wait just a couple more seconds to make sure that everyone who would like to join the interactive part is in and ready. And then for those of you watching within the Zoom window, I'm going to go ahead and start class. Now, some of you might say, I didn't get a chance to join yet. Well, the great thing about Pear Deck is you always go to joinpd.com to join a session. And even as a presenter, up in the top right-hand corner, that join code will remain there throughout my entire session. So late joiners in the class can always know, oh, you're in a Pear Deck, here's the website I need to go to, and they can look up onto the screen, my presentation screen, to see what the join code is. And I have to go through, I've Pear Decked my entire presentation, but I'm going to fast forward ahead to where we are. And now you are going to have the opportunity to respond. So my first question is a text response question. What do you like most about teaching? So for those of you that are in the interactive session and are participating, I would love to see you begin to type in some of your responses. And if you're still in the Zoom window, you're able to see that at the bottom of my screen, right now, I can see that 40 people have responded out of the 65 that have joined. And I do have some show response tools. The great thing is, as a teacher, I can also lock the screen. So if a student is being silly or doing something that they didn't respond, and if they're doing a drag, they're dragging something all over and it's becoming distracting, I can lock the screen so that no additional responses can be entered. So for those of you that are in my Zoom session, I'm going to show some of the responses. I can see a text response view two different ways. On the teacher view, once I project responses, there are two icons in the top left corner. One is the list layout, and I can see each individual response in a text bubble stacked one on top of each other, and I can just scroll down and read them all. Or I can see the same information in a grid view, where I see all of the responses at one time in their own little text bubble. So that's great. And if you notice, if you're watching on the Zoom view, they are anonymous. So those students that might be a little more timid and not want to share their thoughts, if you do decide to share and project this, it's anonymous, so they have some of that comfort. So for my participants, if you're back in the Pear Deck view, you now have another type of question. This is a multiple choice question. And the question is, have you used Pear Deck before? And you should have 3 options to select from. And I can see right now that I've got 60 of 73 responses. People are still pulling in and responding. On my side, I could press show responses if I wanted to. I'm going to show the responses in a screenshot to make sure everyone has the ability to see. Multiple choice responses are able to be viewed as a grid with each response in its own little bubble, or in this case, I'm able to see it in an overlay where it appears as a bar graph. So you just have to be able to toggle back and forth to see which view is best representing the data for you and for your students if you choose to share that with them. For those that are in my Pear Deck session, now I'm asking you a numerical question. I'm asking you if you would enter how many years you have been teaching. And again, I am watching the responses pour in. Again, all I would need to do is click show responses, but I'm going to show responses from a test session we did yesterday. That way everyone can see. I can see numerical responses either as a grid in individual single boxes, Or this one's a little different. For numerical responses, I'm able to see them in an overlay where they're, you can block it down into quartiles or kind of get a good idea based upon, you know, a good understanding of where they are as a whole. Here's one last text response question, because like I said, I will be sharing all of this information with you, and I will make sure that all of the responses are shared as well. But I would like you to take a second and share what are some topics or tips that you have you can share with others regarding distance learning. Positive tips and tricks you might be able to share with other teachers from distance learning. This time, if you're within the Zoom tool, you're going to see the actual responses. I love it. Grace, if you've noticed as you're typing your responses in, they're live time in my response view. You do not have to even press enter. Your responses are there. Grace, we're all learning new tricks. Patience, use Remind and Google Voice to connect with parents and students and their families. Flexible. I know that there are people that do not like distance learning. Probably the reason we became teachers is because we love that interaction with students, and it does, it's completely minimized when you're in the distance learning experience. Okay, so if you were part of the Pear Deck interactive part, you are able to close that tab and go back to just the Zoom presentation. I have a couple additional things to share with you before I ask or allow you to ask some questions. Let me go on. We're almost there. I know many many teachers across our state, it was a big jump for them to go from classroom experience to distance learning. And we know that not every school or student had the capability to do that interactively, and they had to use handouts and packets. And we're hoping that if we come to this experience again, we've at least created a toolbox that you're able to become familiar with the tools and how to use them. And I know here in Oklahoma, it has been said that we will not be mandating any whole school closures. It will be up to local control. So, you know, hopefully you're able to communicate with your administrators and your other teachers and better plan if this is to occur again. One thing that I've helped create, or I've put together, is a tutorial database. And when you receive this presentation, it actually has the link in it. This is found on the Oklahoma State Department of Education's Educational Technology PD page. If that's not a long title, I don't know what is. Right now, it's a filterable database. There are currently tools, short tutorials for Canvas, Google Classroom, Flipgrid, Jamboard, Kahoot, Pear Deck, Edpuzzle, Screencastify, and Seesaw. I've also had recent requests for Google Meet and Pear Deck. And if you can think of any other things that you would like to see, I would be glad to pull them in a database. I'm actually going to take you to that site to show you. So this is the professional development. There are the additional signups for Tech Tool Tuesdays. And I come down here, and like I said, they're filterable. I can select the tool and add a filter, and maybe I only want to see Flipgrid, and then it's also sortable by user. I know that many times students need guidance and parents need guidance, so you can sort that. Maybe I only want to see student tutorials, and then it also goes to level of user, beginning, intermediate, and advanced. Hopefully that's a resource that you would find helpful. So, like I said, I will be emailing a link to this presentation along with the chat information and some of your responses from those text response questions so that you have just something to browse through and look through. But right now, are there any questions? Lauren, I know you had a couple, and if you could share
Yeah.
some of those.
Absolutely. So first we wanted to know if students can download the Pear Deck and work on it offline.
You know, that's a really good question. And I know that you can work on Google Slides offline. I believe you would probably have to be connected to, gosh, that's a really good question. I will research that. I'm going to add that to my list. And I hadn't really thought about that. Work
Great.
offline.
This may also be another one that we may have to check in on. Is this compatible with Seesaw if you give students the link?
I do believe so. But I will confirm that, and that'll be another bullet I will add to the email, the follow-up email.
Great. Are the daily decks that you showed us earlier free?
Yes.
Great. We also had some feedback that it looks like the premium version of Pear Deck that has been, they have been offering during COVID. Someone said that they received an email just today saying that that offer is ending. But like you had said, Karen, all of the tools that you showed today, most of them should be available without that premium subscription. Another question we had is, can we use Pear Deck with non-readers? Is there a way to make it a compatible tool with kids who can't read?
I would think that some of it would be compatible because of the ability to record your audio. I'm trying to think. I'm sure that some of the, if you look through the K2 Little slides, there would be some interactive components there.
Absolutely. And then these are a couple of just little logistical questions that we had. Someone said that their school is not listed in the schools in Pear Deck. I believe when you sign up, is there a way that we can fix that? So I know we can look into that perhaps on the back end. And then also, are we going to get a certificate for this session for PD credit? That's another.
I was not planning to give certificates, but if you need a certificate, why don't you email me directly and I'll do some research into that for you.
Great.
And school not listed, when I joined for Pear Deck, I just typed Oklahoma State Department of Education in because my school wasn't listed. So I believe that you're just able to enter that information. Another resource that I forgot to share was that on the peardeck.com website, there's also a blog, and that's a great source to find out ways teachers are using Pear Deck and some of the new add-ons or features within that. So you might want to check that out from time to time.
Great. We had one more question that just popped up. It asked, are the add-ons that are added to the slides fixed to that slide so students can't move them?
Yes. In fact, as students go through, they are only able to see it kind of like in the presentation mode. If you were the one that was experiencing it, students would not be able to see the individual slides on the left-hand side that you would in the behind-the-scenes creation. You are welcome to unmute yourself if you've got any additional questions as well.
This is Kim Faring. I do have one question.
Sure.
I wanted to know, you had talked about that you wouldn't need Screencastify if you used Pear Deck, but if I already have Screencastify presentations made, could I use Pear Deck with those?
Right now, the only thing that Pear Deck is compatible with is Google Slides. So if you already have a presentation, you might be able to use any slides that you use to create that Screencastify presentation, but it would only be able to embed questions within Screencastify. Although, if you come back to a later session, we're going to be talking about Edpuzzle in a few weeks. And that might be a way that you can take a recording that you've already created and use Edpuzzle to insert questions and make that more interactive.
If I am, because most of my Screencastify are Google Slides. It's my lecture that I'm going through. So maybe if I used Pear Deck first and put the slides in and then, you know, did the Screencastify, maybe it would work that way.
Yeah, and if you want to experiment and create one like that and share it with me and see if I can work through it as a student, that's a possibility as well. Any other questions?
Hi, I'm Rhonda Hicks, and I do very low level special needs children. Most of them don't even know how to hold a pencil. They're going to have PCAs that help them do any pencil paper type activities and nonverbal. And so could we even use this? I mean, I don't even know how. Like, the beginning is just, can you find an A? Do you know where's an A? We've been talking about A. Now, can you find A? Or a
I would
certain letter?
think that I would probably recommend a tool like Seesaw for learners at that age instead,
Yeah.
just because it is easier for them to navigate as littles, and it provides more options for you and them as teachers.
Okay. I've never heard of Seesaw, so I guess I'll.
Well, I will be having a Tech Tool Tuesday training on Seesaw soon as well, so you may want to join that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions before I share the last bit of information with you? Okay, well, like I said, I will have a follow-up email to this presentation. It will have a link. I'll try to answer some of the questions posed, so you'll probably not receive this email until tomorrow. We will be posting a video of this session on the OSDE EdTech Professional Development website page as well, so you're able to return there or share that with others. And also within that email, I will be including a link to a survey. I am always learning as a presenter as well, and I would love your feedback on thoughts about this presentation, ways I could improve, something that you liked, and maybe even share other tools that you would like training, or share tips that I can share with other teachers. I would love that as well. So you are welcome to stay on if you've got any questions. And I know I'm really excited to say that even though I've been in Oklahoma for 1.5 years, I know some of my co-teachers from Georgia jumped in here too, and I would love to be able to talk to a couple of them. So the rest of you are welcome to go. Please email me questions, comments, concerns, and hopefully something that you've learned here today will be useful to you in your classroom in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.